Welcome to the Patent Behavior Initiative Mental Wellness and Behavior Support Series during the COVID-19 outbreak. The mission of the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network, PATN, is to support the efforts and initiatives of the Bureau of Special Education and to build the capacity of local educational agencies to serve students who receive special education services. Pennsylvania's Department of Education's commitment to least restrictive environment. Our goal for each child is to ensure individualized education program teams begin with the general education setting with the use of supplementary aids and services before considering a more restrictive environment. Due to the current public health crisis, we find ourselves in new roles as teachers, parents, and caregivers. Let's just first reflect on why you're all at home right now, and it is as a result of COVID-19. According to the World Health Organization, coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more serious diseases. Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is a new strain that was discovered in 2019 and has not been previously identified in humans. This is where the 19 in COVID-19 comes from, because it was discovered in 2019. Common signs of infection include respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties. And there is a link here for you to click on for more information regarding COVID-19. There are a variety of outlets that are providing support to parents with regard to the new role that you're seeing yourself in homeschooling your children. According to the National Association of School Psychologists and the National Association for Nurses, in their parent resource, they provide the following specific guidelines. Maintain a normal routine to the extent possible. Be honest and accurate. Know the symptoms of COVID-19 and review and model basic hygiene and healthy lifestyle practices for protection. Welcome to this two-part series, How to Deal with Challenging Behaviors While Homeschooling During the COVID-19 Crisis. This is session 1 of the 2. My name is Tina Lawson, and I'm going to be talking to you for the next 2 sessions. For this session, we're going to talk about setting the ground rules. And what we're going to specifically dive into is creating a context for learning, creating a routine in this new normal, and setting expectations. Let's talk context. Setting the ground rules for learning requires a context that says this is a learning time. So while your children are at home or your young adults are at home, they're not used to being expected to participate in school while at home. So we have to create an environment that says when you're in this location, when this specific tablecloth is on the table, when we're here, this is the time for learning. I understand. I've got the same situation. We don't have multiple rooms in the house that everybody has a classroom they can set up. We're talking about, if you look at the bottom corner here, use your kitchen table, and perhaps you have, a certain tablecloth you can put down that this is when we're doing our reading time, this is when we're doing our writing time, or just make sure that the table is completely cleared of everything else that even pertains to eating, and that's where you put things. This is our learning time. If you look at the bottom left corner, there's time to be at your countertop where you might be doing some sort of experiment or something else. But you have to clearly state this is a time for learning. And then with our older children, our older youth, setting up a clear space that is set up with the computer in place. I know I'm dealing with a child who has a Chromebook and saying you have to stay on the tabs that relate to school. You can do your video games later, but right now, your computer, the context, the ground rule is the computer during this period of time is for the schoolwork that I'm either assigning or your school is providing. We don't just have to sit at a table in order for learning to take place. But you can say, you know, during this time you have, like our young man here, you're sitting in a beanbag and you can play your handheld device. Or if that child didn't have a handheld device, you could say, this is your time you're going to be reading. When the reading is over and so many pages are done and I've checked with you, then you can have your handheld device. But you want to be really clear, what are your expectations when they're in that space? Setting those ground rules. Another critical aspect of setting ground rules is setting up routines. We still have to get dressed as though we're going to school. May not have to wear your school uniform if your school wears a uniform, and you may not have to dress as fancy as this young man, but we want to make sure we're getting dressed in the morning. But what are some other routines that you have in the morning? Brushing teeth. Just because we're not going to school doesn't mean we don't brush our teeth. Brushing teeth is still an important routine for all of us to do. Making our bed. I don't know about you if making the bed is a priority prior to being a homeschooling parent or caregiver, but if it was, it still has to remain. That's part of the routine. Humans like routines. And breakfast. It's really important. If this is to start the day, if your child always started the day with a breakfast, sitting down as a family, or just providing your child or young adult with some sort of get them ready in the morning meal. So you can see here, this is all about maintaining your routines. I know in my household, we kind of lost our routines because it was a new normal, and I could feel my son's anxiety go up a little bit. I could feel my anxiety go up a little bit. We reinstated all of our old routines, set up those contexts for learning, the space, rules for when the computer is going to be done, and these routines helped. The other thing that you may not be used to doing, or maybe you are, is creating a schedule. Even if it's just as simplistic as this one. You wake up at a certain time. These are your work assignments if they're assigned by your teacher or they're assigned by you. We're going to have lunch between this time and this time. This is when we're going to do reading. You're going to practice your instrument. You're going to do writing, whatever that might be. And then here's outside time. This can be as elaborate or as simplistic as you want. It could be for all 5 days, as I'm showing you here, or it could just be every day. And you could also sit down with your child and say, okay, it's Wednesday. You have to check in with your school by such and such a time, and you have this much work to do. When this work is done, let me know. Then you can take a break. There's no hard and fast rule. It's just that you have to have the conversation. What's your expectation? And maybe some of you have the option to work from home. So juggling working from home and homeschooling your child or children, the more you are descriptive with what your expectations are and what your expectations are for your child, the better everybody will be. And finally, setting the ground rules with expectations. Here's an example of some positively based rules for home. I'm respectful. I listen to my parents. I'm truthful with my parents. I'm going to play cooperatively with my siblings. I'm going to speak nicely to others. I mean, these are still really important things. I know I have to handle them in my home. I am responsible. I put away my toys, my bike, my equipment. I help with jobs at home. I follow my parents' directions. I let my parent know or my caregiver know what's assigned from school. I go to bed and I get up at the right time. And then another expectation to be safe. What does that look like? Well, in this home, it's to play safely with others. And in this current situation, play at if you're outside, walking at a safe distance. Stay away from strangers, wear a bike helmet and equipment. These respect, responsibility, and safe, you can have them as your home rules. And then what does it look like in your house? Expectations for both you and your child or children are critical. And it helps us as adults remember what we want to do and not get caught up in the don't. You do this, don't. It's more about what you should do or what they could be doing. And we're going to talk about more of this positives to negative things that we're saying to each other in session 2. But these 3 areas, context, routines, and expectations, you set these ground rules starting today or starting tomorrow, whenever it is, it's not too late. You set those, you will diffuse a lot of potential problems that arise from the day. Will it fix everything? No. But the clearer you are, the more you involve your child or children, the better it is for everybody. And I want to say goodbye for session 1. Remember, we are families first, and we all have different combinations of families, caregivers involved. First and foremost, you've got to stay healthy. You want to make sure that you're adhering to whatever the recommendations or guidelines that are being shared by your county. And you want to make sure that you're not getting into an incredible power struggle with your child or children around schooling. Maintain the healthiness of your family just as much as anything else. And maintain for you, as the caregiver in the home who's in this new role of being able to be there for your children, be there for you. And if you are working remotely, doing what you can to meet the needs of your work responsibilities at this very unusual time in our history. And on this last slide, I share my contact information. I'm Tina Lawson, and there are more resources on the patent.net website, and I look forward to you listening to session 2.